Welcome back, First Hour Faithfuls, to yet another episode of the First Hour. This is the show where I, Colin Tanner from Video Games Are Dumb, and you, the legions of First Hour Faithfuls, take a look at the first hour of a recently released video game. So remember to like, subscribe, and bring the fire in the comments below for this episode, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the Wii U Virtual Console. Now, what can be said about this game that has not already been said? It would make a great sandwich. I don't think anyone's ever said that. Yeah, I think no one's ever said that. Ocarina of Time is often regarded as one of the best games of all time. It's often regarded as one of the most influential games of all time. I agree about 50% with that. We'll get into that in a moment. To understand the significance of Ocarina of Time, you have to understand its place in history. It was 1998. The Nintendo 64 had been out for about 2 years. It had launched with Mario 64 and Pilot Wings. Pilot Wings 64 was regarded as a okay game. You know, people liked it. Mario 64 was regarded as an instant classic. People loved that game. And then for about 2 years, people kept saying, yeah, but what's coming up next? What's the next thing? And it didn't take long for people to imagine the idea of Metroid on Nintendo 64, something that would never happen. Or Zelda on 64, Zelda 64, when is that going to happen? Well, it was eventually announced and delayed and delayed and delayed. In fact, to get a copy of this game, you really had to sit down in front of a shop and wait for it to open. Back in the day, you didn't have to plunk down money at most shops to reserve a game. Not pre-order, reserve. You just write your name on a piece of paper, include your phone number at your local Babbage's or even FuncoLand. I think that's how FuncoLand operated back before GameStop ruled the world. And, you know, it was just a very different time. The anticipation for this game was immense. People were tremendously excited. I believe it came out in November of 1998. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it was sometime in November. And the release date kept moving around. People were waiting outside. Trucks would show up and, sorry, no Ocarina of Time here. And people were confused. There was a tremendous ad campaign in magazines and in television and all over the place. Hell, even newspapers. Ocarina of Time is coming. Zelda is coming. And there was anticipation for this for good reason. Link to the Past was a tremendous success on the SNES, often regarded as the best Zelda game for many people. So what could they bring to the table by taking Zelda and putting it in 3D? Keep in mind, this was the very first time we'd ever see Link in 3D. Big deal. So, you know, development in this game, I believe, started around the same time, or at least during the time of when Mario 64 was being developed. They would come up with these outlandish ideas, and they would say, well, you know, this will not work for our Mario game, but perhaps we can take these ideas and put them into a new Zelda game. But even then, it wasn't a sure thing that it was going to be a new Zelda game. So they actually had the idea of just remaking Link to the Past in 3D. Can you believe that? When do you ever see 2D games getting remade into 3D? You really never see that. You see remasters. In fact, at one point, this game was going to be entirely in first person. Another fun fact, it was going to be like a first-person game. Sort of like, God, and I can't remember the name of it right now. King's Quest? Not King's Quest. It's the From Software titles. Before they made Dark Souls, they made a bunch of these games. Leave a comment if you remember what the name of that game is, so other people don't have to look it up. Pre-rendered backgrounds, or a lot of these early interiors, which was quite common at the time. In fact, the year prior is when Final Fantasy VII had released on the PlayStation. And a lot of people were anticipating this to be the Nintendo 64's Final Fantasy VII, and it needed it. Now, we look back at the 64 now, and you know, there's a lot of rose-tinted glasses about the time and place for Nintendo for the 64. It was not good. It was not a good time for Nintendo, contrary to popular belief. In fact, the Super Nintendo had barely eked out a victory next to Sega, which is hilarious because next generation Sega would be almost absent with the Sega Saturn. But the PlayStation, of course, a project that started off as an add-on to the Super Nintendo before the relationship turned sour, Philips CDI, yada yada, you can go look up that stuff. The PlayStation was just dominating. When it was all said and done, this generation, I believe the Nintendo 64 sold somewhere in the range of 24 million units. And the PlayStation 1 was over 100 million. Now, they discontinued the 64 much earlier than the PlayStation. I think almost by about 5 years. That might have a lot to do with it. But the 64 was not doing particularly well. A lot of that had to do with third-party developers. This was really the very first generation where third-party developers stepped away from Nintendo because Nintendo's practices were, you know, kind of sucky. If you were a developer, you know, they would always limit how many games, or they'd have their issues with the content of the game, no religious imagery, lots of issues with censorship, and we have our sword. And you know, just some really difficult. They were difficult to work with. Nintendo was difficult to work with if you were third party. And on top of that, they had decided that they were going to stick with cartridges. When Sega and Sony had seen the future and said, no, we will be going with CD technology. CD technology will provide more space for a game, requiring less compression. There we go, get my rupee. And not only that, but CDs were cheaper to manufacture. I mean, the cost of cartridges, especially for a developer, were outrageous at that point. Because you have to keep in mind, they were not just cartridges of old, you know... Right, this is my sword right here. They were not the same cartridges as the Super Nintendo. They were cartridges that had more space and were therefore more expensive. Here we go. Yeah. That's always fun. That's a fun thing to do. We gotta go get 40 rupees. And go buy a shield. So where am I going with all this? Well, in 1998, they already had, you know, Final Fantasy VII was released on the PlayStation 4, and those graphics just blew people away. Yeah, they were pre-rendered, much like what you're looking at right now is pre-rendered. You notice how it looks a little different from the characters? It doesn't look like it's part of the same thing. That's because this is essentially a photograph. I mean, for lack of a better term, this is a screen capture of a 3D environment being wrapped around a wireframe, which is also why it doesn't seem to have any sort of bump mapping on there. Were people even doing bump mapping on the 64? I don't think so. I think I'm just talking junk. Get some rubies. There we go. Got one. Only got 27 more to go. So, Nintendo needed a big hit. And it was obvious from the beginning of 1998 that this was going to be a big hit. This is what Zelda was going to be what Nintendo was going to be putting all of their marketing bucks behind. And it was a very crowded market. 1998 was a very crowded market. I've actually pulled up a list of games released in 1998 that I want to get to really express to you guys how big that year was for video games. It is arguably the biggest. It is arguably the best. I'm not going to say it holds up the best, but I'm going to say it's, there we go. We gotta chop this down. Rupees. Come on, let me cut it. 1998 was a phenomenal year. Looking back on it, it almost feels impossible that so many mammoth titles could be released in a 12-month period. And if you look at it beyond America and Europe and even include the Japanese releases, it makes far less sense that this is possible. So if this is released in November of 1998, the next month, the Dreamcast would come out in Japan. Think about that. The Dreamcast was out in Japan. Yeah, I know how to look at you. I don't need to look at you. I know you, the Z targeting. We'll get into why this game is considered so significant beyond just people liking it. So 1998, totally bonkers year. We'll get it up into that list in just a moment. So, you know, Zelda had been a fan favorite, but I feel like this title is what, even with Link to the Past being as popular as it was, this was a system seller. And, you know, people bitch about special editions and pre-orders and yada 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 these days. But back in the day, people were trying so hard to get a copy of Ocarina of Time early because you would get a gold cartridge. And while that seems almost gimmicky if you're unaware of the history, The Legend of Zelda, the original game, one of the reasons it stood out when it was released in the 80s was that it actually came with a gold cartridge. And people were like, oh my god, I have to get it, it's so rare. Even though, ironically enough, the gray cartridge of, you know, The Legend of Zelda is actually more valuable than the gold cartridge because they produce so many goddamn gold cartridges. I don't even know if there's a gray cartridge of Legend of Zelda 2. I assume there is, because they would manufacture those games even as far as the 90s. So, can I pick this up? The rupee. Crud, need one more. One of those. Whoop. Keep it coming. If I go in here and come back out, there should be another... Oops, wait a minute. These guys should be able to do the trick. There we go. The previous year, if I'm not mistaken, 1997, Nintendo did have a rather significant hit. A surprise hit. Cannot stress this enough to you people. A surprise hit no one expected called GoldenEye. Which I say GoldenEye now and everyone here knows what I'm talking about. There is no one watching this video that does not know what GoldenEye is. Alright? When it came out, no one expected jack shit from it. But that had significantly improved the reputation of the Nintendo 64. You know, as a party system. That's basically where the two pillars would be these Nintendo franchises and party games. Let's get that shield now. I don't need your stupid stuff. But when it came to the 64, that was kind of the problem, is because third parties had gone with PlayStation, many times a big Nintendo title would come out. You'd have your Marios and, well, you'd have your Mario, because they only had Mario 64, you know, Zelda, you know, Mario, I said Mario again, you know, GoldenEye, and then there would just be about 4 months where nothing good would come out, But the stuff that would come out was so good. Like, so crazy good. Yeah, I got my sword and shield. Yeah. This guy doesn't like Link. He's a dick. Little dick. Alright. Oh, here we go. This is where combat comes into play. So check this out right here. What's the big deal? What's the big deal about this combat? Why am I even talking about this combat? Who cares? What's going on here? Okay, think back to 1998. Seriously, go back and play games in 1998. When you fought an enemy, it would be like run forward, run back, and you try and line up a way to hit them or shoot them or whatever. Ocarina of Time, while not the first game to introduce it, was probably the biggest game early on to use, you know, lock-on targeting. You would lock onto an enemy, move around them, and wait for a chance to strike. And as the game progresses, because it's not as simple as that, it's not as simple as walking around and just hitting some creature like those plants. There would be points where people would have shields, and you'd need to like let them attack and go behind them and jump around them and attack them from behind. Like, holy crap. At the time, revolutionary. Absolutely revolutionary. So while this is going on, I do have a list right here. Hopefully, it won't take very long. So here's what came out in 1998, and this is why it's the best year in video games, probably of all time. Hopefully, not of all time. I hope the future just gets better and better. But here's what we have. The original Half-Life, revolutionizing narratives in video games. StarCraft, revolutionizing the way that people would play online. Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation, going in an entirely different direction in storytelling and stealth. I mean, good God, how many games had stealth sequences after they came out? Banjo-Kazooie. People like that, I'm not the biggest fan. I'm just being real with you guys. Thief, The Dark Project, another way to completely revolutionize the way that stealth is handled in a video game. Like, people are revolutionizing in different directions successfully. Grim Fandango, one of the greatest adventure games of all time. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, adding unprecedented amount of realism into a first-person shooter. Resident Evil 2, Baldur's Gate, Sonic Adventure, it's the Dreamcast, let's just say Dreamcast, okay? Spyro the Dragon, Star Wars Rogue Squadron, Xenogears, the first Unreal, which was available on Macintosh, by the way, Crash Bandicoot Warped, Fallout 2, Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit, that's when they introduced cops chasing you. Think about that, kids. That's when cops start okay. If that doesn't impress you, I don't know what. Some game called Pokemon Yellow. Huh. I wonder what that is. Okay, so Pokemon Yellow wasn't the biggest game, but hey, Pokemon was on the upswing, alright? The time and place. Panzer Dragoon Saga. If you don't know about that game, look it up. The very first Dance Dance Revolution. WCW vs. NWO Revenge, which is a great game, and you should all check it out. Forsaken, amazing flight shooter. People like Medieval, you know, so that was there. And the first Mario Party game. It was a really crazy year, okay, guys? It was a really crazy year. But for many, the best title of this period is Ocarina of Time. I'm about to die. I totally screwed up. Please have hearts. Please have hearts. Can't believe I screwed up this bad this early. There we go. And I got a stick. Yeah! Oh, you gotta kill all of them to get the hearts. So, you'll have to excuse me when I say that as good as Ocarina of Time is, and it holds up very, very well, that it might be a tad bit overrated. Now, if you only owned a Nintendo 64, hey, understood, got it, totally respect your opinion. There was a big, big drought when it came to games. Yeah, I know I can climb on the surface. I should have named him Link. Why'd I name him Colin? I'm not that big of a Cinco fan, I promise. Slingshot time. Give me a slingshot. Give me a slingshot. Of course, this is just iconic right here. Oh, it's the map? Oh, okay. Oh, you got the... Hey, you can't open a door by Oh, you can. The action icon. That actually was a huge deal. Having a button that is exclusive to the context of your situation. Big deal. Didn't happen back then. Come on, let's go, buddy. Wanna go? Let's go. Wanna go? Go ahead. What happened? You feel like a jackass now, don't you? Forgive me, Master. If I give you a clue, will you let me go? When you jump off a high cliff, you can hold forward. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. But Ocarina of Time, even though I think it's overrated, because people say it's the greatest game of all time, which I find to be ludicrous. You know, is it a good game? Absolutely. You'd have to be a jackass not to say it's a good game. Like a real jackass. I mean, personally, I think the greatest game of all time is Tetris, so there's my opinion on that. Even though I suck at Tetris, I still think it's a masterpiece. You can check out my Tetris Ultimate video if you really want to know more about my feelings on that. But there was just too much going on in 1998 for me to consider this the best game of 1998. What is the best game of 1998? Is it Metal Gear Solid? Freaking love Metal Gear Solid. Is it Half-Life? Whew! Freaking love Half-Life. What is it? I don't think there's a solid answer. But I do think that 1998 is the best year ever in video games because there were just so many ideas. So many ideas. Gotta get in here. If you have the opportunity to play this on the 3DS, if you have a copy of the 3DS game, I would say probably stick to that. It's better than the Nintendo 64 release. It's fantastic. I don't know if you can get a copy of that still. How do I make this go? There we go. Excellent. Excellent. Do I got any rupees in here? You can still see the object right next to the object. Yeah, there's a few glitches right here. But this game, like I said, is one of the most influential of all time. And the reason being that so many developers of varying ages were exposed to these ideas on a wider range. You could be a developer. You could be one of the biggest developers in the world. And you probably still would not know what's really going on in video games. Video games were rapidly changing. There were no social networks. This was not, you know, you didn't dust off your old Facebook or Twitter and contact a fellow developer and be like, hey, you got any ideas about how to do this? That just wasn't the case. Not only that, but every game, pretty much every game, was developed on their own engine. So you know today how you hear about like Unreal Engine 4 or, you know, whatever you hear about, the, oh god, crud. He's a little too fast for me. Yeah, I gotta take him out. Using the slingshot down here. Like, something like Medieval on the PlayStation 1 had its own engine. Like, when games reused engines, it was considered weird. I remember when Brute Force, the original Xbox title, was reusing the Halo engine. Everyone went, oh, it's gonna be as good as Halo, because no one understood what engines were back then. Now, of course, we have Unreal and Unity and you know, all sorts of things. So every game had its own feeling. But if you were a developer and you might not have been exposed to the idea, keep in mind, there's no... The internet exists, but you can't, like, download... I mean, you can download games. I mean, obviously, Apogee existed for years. But there's so many ideas out there. There weren't really indie games, per se. Alright, fine. Be that way. Man, that is a real dick move. So this might not be very impressive to you guys right now, but for Zelda fans, this was mind-blowing. First person in a three-dimensional world while you're exploring a dungeon. Crazy. I totally screwed up. And I totally screwed up again. I gotta get back up there. Ugh. But the admiration for Zelda was not something that took very long. Ocarina of Time was pretty quickly recognized as one of the best games of the generation at that point. Almost every critic was giving it perfect scores. It was a very triumphant moment for Nintendo fans, because you'd wanted this game to be so good. You know, the 64, like I said, just didn't have the library. Even if you go back now, it's very difficult. Come up with your top 100 best Nintendo 64 games. That's not going to be a fun exercise, I promise you. Maybe I just have to go through that door. Did I already go through here? I did not go through here. I thought I had to do that jump thing. Brud, the timer. Oh. Not gonna be able to make it. Automatic jumping. That was another big deal in this game. That's one thing that I think a lot of developers didn't necessarily hold on to as deeply as the context buttons and target. What are you all happy about this time, Link? You found a compass. Wow. Oh god. Thing was right up all in my business. Huh. That should be good enough. Ugh. You jerk. Oh, that totally hit him. I'm not sure what's over there, but it's okay. We're gonna move on. No, I guess we can't. Gotta get that stupid spider thing. Stupid. You might be saying, this looks really easy. It is, but it's actually educating you about the game and how it plays. Keep in mind, a lot of these concepts were tremendously new to video games, and therefore obviously very new to new players. Oh man, I am toast. Creative restore point. That's something that's very nice. Like I said, though, I do recommend that if you have the option, I would say pick up the 3DS version. As expensive as it might be, it is a superior version of this title. It might not have the feel of a big, big world, where you're in front of your big television and looking at Link jumping around. But the enhanced textures and inventory system. Oh, I really don't like the jumping system. Although, as I pointed out in the past, replicating the feel of a 64 controller on a Wii U gamepad simply isn't ideal to begin with, because you're missing the grooves. The original 64 controllers had these grooves. Look at how many they had. Man, kill that thing. You destroyed a gold Skulltula. Alright. Hopefully there's a heart in here. Hey, well, what do you know? I always look back at this period of time as my favorite time in video games, and I don't think I'm wrong. I think it actually really just appeals to my general sensibilities. There was so much experimentation going on. No one really knew what they were doing, and in some ways people still don't. But when you had titles like Resident Evil 2 and Jumping Flash and Wipeout, it's just like, what are these games? Like, no one's following the rules anymore, That was kind of my biggest issue. A lot of people always say, oh, 2D games, they never got old. Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, what are we doing? Strong iron bars are blocking them. You can't open them with your hands. Yeah, but what do I do, Navi? Can't remember. I feel like I've done everything I have to do in here. You want me to kill this plant again? Did it. Or do they want me to select the compass? I don't have to select the compass, I thought. I thought it was always active. Looks like that torch was burning. Oh, right, okay. So, here's what I gotta do. Well, that's not even remotely close to what I have to do. I need to get this bad boy. Put it right there. This is a big deal. Setting stuff on fire. Yeah! What you saw right there, me running around in a circle, that's basically what video games were before a lock-on system. It's not a great time. What do you think about this? Huh? You jerk. Turn around. So I might have to jump from this side just because there's a heart right here. Damn, I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Guess not. So, like I've said though, Ocarina of Time is not really my favorite game. Not even really close, if I'm being completely honest. Why is that? Well, even for the time, it kind of looked like junk. Oh boy, here come the comments. You see, a lot of this game takes place in muddy places, just muddy worlds. Ah, come on. There we go. There were so many new environments to explore, I mean, in 3D games. And, Ocarina of Time just felt very confined to caves. I kind of felt the same way about, like, Donkey Kong 64 and, can't remember what the other one was. What the heck am I supposed to do here? Yeah, thanks, Navi. Now you don't want to help me. You could swear it was fall down here and use your sword. I guess I'm really that out of touch. Huh. How much time do we even have left? Probably a little over halfway right now, right? Okay. So I had a 64 and a PlayStation growing up, so I felt very spoiled by playing something like Metal Gear Solid. Oh my god, all that voice acting, the concept of stealth, the amazing graphics. I mean, you know, it might look similar to you, but go back and look at Metal Gear Solid and then look at Ocarina of Time. And, you know, Ocarina of Time didn't look going so good. I must have forgotten something. Oh man. Gotta be something I'm supposed to do around here. Am I really not supposed to go down here? But why is the heart there? This has to be the right place. I thought so! What was I doing wrong before? Man, I was so worried that wasn't gonna work. Be like, man, I'm gonna look like an idiot doing that 3 times in a row. Now I just look like an idiot for doing it 2 times in a row. Better get this bad boy rolling. Well, I think that's the way back up. I don't need to go back up. Damn. Oh. Just climb up there. Alright, so... what exactly did this unlock? It should have more sticks in it, if I'm not mistaken. There we go. That thing's just bugging me. I'm gonna kill it. You gotta look for where it's not too dark. It was a very sensible game when it came out. Just the idea of like, oh, use the fire to burn the stuff. Like, you know, it was cool. What do you think about that, punk? What you gonna say now? What you gonna say now? Please forgive me, master. I'll never do it again. If you spare me, I'll teach you something cool. You will never beat my brothers up ahead unless you punish them in the proper order. The order is 2, 3, 1. 23 is number 1. Do you think I'm a traitor? Well, you just pooped out a heart, so... yeah? Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. 2, 3, 1. 23 is number 1. I mean, this game was so sensible back in the day that it just holds up beautifully, you know? After you get into the water, if you hold down A, you can dive. I bet there are some interesting things underwater. I bet there are too, but let's stay focused here. Ah, nuts. Oh man, really, Link? You can't figure it out? You don't know what you're doing there, buddy? Can't climb up? Can't climb up? Come on, buddy. How do I do this again? Well, it stopped me to say to go underwater, so there's probably something underwater here. Hell, the camera's even focusing on the water part. Uh-huh. There we go. I really might dig up my old copy of, well, this is not original, the Grabbing the Blocks. People often say this was started in Ocarina of Time, which that's absolutely false. That was in a number of titles, most prominently featured in Tomb Raider and the Resident Evil series. Just pointing it out. Not trying to be a jerk. climb up. Open up the door. I mean, I guess for many people, the real question is, should they buy this game again? And I can't answer that. Only you can answer that. But I can tell you that it's already been available on the 64, on the compilation disc on the GameCube, on the Wii Virtual Console, and on the 3DS. Now, I assume if you bought it on the Wii Virtual Console, you can transfer it over for whatever that is, $2, whatever they charge you for. Yeah, using the right analog stick isn't great for the C buttons. I don't know what his strategy is there, turning around. Just let me stab him, but hey, more power to him. Makes my job easier. There we go. Oops. Better get inside of here before they catch up to me. So funny that Metal Gear also had the first-person crawling sequences within like a month of each other. I mean, for me, if I wasn't doing this video, I probably wouldn't have repurchased this game. Just because I really am content with the 3DS rendition. I guess some people are doing some pretty crazy things on emulation as well. What's really kept this game alive, though, is the speedrunning community. There are so many different people out there that are attempting to whittle down their speedruns by just a matter of seconds. And some of the things they do are pretty far out there, like using some glitches that result in them flying up to Ganon in his final form. You know, weird stuff like that. It's pretty great. You know, it's... Oh... I didn't mean to do that. Whatever. I'll just go through here. Is this where he came from? Nope. Please forgive me, Master. I'll never do it again. If you spare me, I'll teach you something cool. Huh? Am I supposed to already know this? Give me that heart. Get out of here. Piece of trash. Did I screw up? Did my backtracking by accident? What's going on here? Yeah, what, Navi? I swear to God. What, is it about beams? Yeah, okay. Thank you, Navi. Thank you, Navi. Thank you. Thank you, Navi. No, thank you, Navi. No, thank you, Navi. Is this supposed to happen? Do it again. Oh, okay. Cool. How am I back here? Like, really, how am I back here? Where did I screw up? Even the game's kind of screwed up. Alright, I'm gonna pay close attention now. Yeah, I'm just button mashing on these guys, but... we did this. Uh-oh. You got a heart? No, just a Deku stick. Hearts over here? Maybe? Yeah. Oh, maybe I have to just kill this thing. Thank you. So I went down in here, and that was a mistake. I don't know, I'm gonna try and burn down the wall. Huh. I do not know, then. Well, perhaps if I go through here, there'll be something. I try not to fall down the hole. Obviously. I already did all this. Damn it. Well, maybe I gotta go up. Wait, no. This is the room where it's all started. What can I not access? Go from there. Maybe this isn't where it all started. Yeah, it is. I'm already lost again. This happens a lot in Ocarina of Time, at least for me. Especially that damn water temple. You know, you just look around, try and find stuff. God, I feel like I'm being so boring towards the end of this video, but, you know, I'm just focused on the game, honestly. Oh no, gotta go back down here. Give it another minute, then we'll wrap this bad boy up. Must be something back here then. Was there something I was supposed to grab and I didn't grab it, or what? My inventory real quick. So I have to get lower. I'm gonna do that. Maybe if I light the Deku stick on fire and right there, but Meh. I think that'll do it for this episode of the first hour. Just want to give my basic impressions of it because, you know, I've been a little quiet for the back half of this. Should you buy Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the Wii U? Well, it depends. Do you like what you see? If you like what you see, go pick it up. Do you already like Ocarina of Time? Go pick it up. Did you already buy it on the Wii and you want to spend the extra, whatever it is, $2, $3.99, I don't know what it is, to transfer it over? Go pick it up. If you've never played Ocarina of Time, should you play it? Just, this is me. Okay, this is just how I feel about it. Yeah, you should. Should you beat it? Maybe. I don't know. That's up to you. I think everyone should check out the 3DS version. I think that's the superior version, and it's quite good. The enhanced textures, and you know, it's a very wonderful experience to have on the go with you. If you've already played Ocarina of Time and you remember liking it but not loving it, you know, or whatever, if you've already played it enough times but you're not obsessed, I'd say skip it. You don't need this on your Wii U. You can get it in so many other places. I mean, are you a speedrunner or something? I mean, here's the biggest issue right here. The gamepad right here, it's too smooth. You need those notches. It doesn't feel right in terms of directions. And people might say, oh, who cares? Whoops, I accidentally hit the thing. Who cares? Who cares what it looks like, or what it feels like? You know, it's a game. Just play it. Well, no, Nintendo creates proprietary hardware. You know, it's not like you can. I've seen some people playing, you know, their DSs on their phones. You know, they have the touchscreen and the regular screen, and it doesn't play right because Nintendo designs hardware for very particular purposes, and then designs the software around the hardware, or vice versa, or whatever. And so for the 64 movement and everything like that, it just feels a bit off. It doesn't feel as good. Whereas it was completely redesigned for the 3DS version to feel right on the thumb pad they have on there. So, you know, this is $10 or $8 or whatever it is. If you went out and bought yourself a 64 and copy of Ocarina of Time, it would be much more expensive. If you were to go out and get yourself a copy of Ocarina of Time 3D, it would be much more expensive, but I think you would have a more, it would be more correct. It would be a more authentic experience. Or I've seen some people just play it on emulators using a USB to Nintendo 64 controller. Not that I would ever recommend that. Sorry. Something in my eye there. But that's going to do it for this episode of the first hour. Remember to like, subscribe, bring the fire in the comments below. Let me know what your memories are of Ocarina of Time. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you have a 64 growing up? Did you play it after the fact? Where was the very first place that you ever played Ocarina of Time? Let me know in the comments below, and that'll be entertaining. If people answer, please answer. That's the end of this episode. I will see you for the next episode of the first hour. Thank you for watching.